My name's Dale Mercer. I'm 59 now, slower in the knees, hands like knotty pine. This is Forks, Washington, Olympic side, late October 2019 when it all came apart. But the piece I keep replaying is October 1989. First frost on the grass, cedar smoke in the air. I was a sawmill shift lead then, widower, one boy at home. The night was ordinary, coffee going stale, the porch light throwing that weak amber circle, and then, wrong. 3 knocks from the tree line. Not woodpecker, not wind. Hollow, space like someone thinking, I shouldn't be saying this. It's been years. There's a smell I can't forget. Wet fur and crushed salal, like the woods breathed and didn't mean to. I told myself elk. I told myself a prank. But I still have the old flip phone with a clip of the knocking from later. No, I'm not sharing it. I hear the 3 knocks anyway. Late September 1989. Drizzle made the windows weep. I was making my kids' lunch. Peanut butter, white bread, the kind that sticks to your mouth, while KFKX out of Aberdeen ran a call-in about the thing up by the Hoh River drainage. The caller said, Bigfoot like folks say, taxes. Matter of fact, annoyed. I laughed into my coffee. At the mill, Arnie said it's just tourist bait for the summer crowd. I agreed because it was easier than thinking about it. We stacked cedar 2x6s. Forklift beeped. Rain ticked on the tin roof. Ordinary. That night, I fixed the sag on the back steps, hand plane whispering through Douglas fir, porch light dull and amber against the coming dark. The forest sat black beyond the alder line, maybe 60 yards out, thick with salal and sword fern. I told myself I didn't believe in Bigfoot stuff. Not really. That's what city people think happens out here. Tree shadows and boredom. Smell of diesel on my jacket. Distant creek noise. Probably Beaver Creek running high from the rain. Then the wind died, and I could hear my own breath, my pulse in my ears. I checked the locks a second time just to be sure, then felt stupid for doing it. I slept light. Around 2, I woke to silence heavy as wool, the kind that presses on your chest. My boy didn't stir in the next room. I waited, feeling stupid, listening for nothing. The clock ticked. The fridge hummed. Then I heard it. 3 knocks, spaced and deliberate, from somewhere near the shed. I told myself branch fall. I told myself settling. I didn't get up. Early October 1989. Gray morning, gulls crying even this far inland, smell of salt and wet bark. Leona, who runs the Chevron in Beaver, told me a ranger stopped in 2 days before, said campers heard low whoops near South Fork Hoh, maybe 3 miles upriver from the campground. She rolled her eyes when she told me. You and your Bigfoot stories, she said, meaning the town, meaning the old-timers who talk. I bought coffee in a foam cup and a box of galvanized nails. On the way home, the road misted over, soft blue air, trees leaning like someone's shoulder, close and familiar. When the fog thinned near my turnoff, I could see the shed I built against the alder windbreak, just a lean-to with a tin roof and 1 warped door that never quite closed right. I'd meant to fix it. Never did. At dinner, my boy, 10 then, small for his age, asked if bears knock on things. I said no. I said it was probably the neighbor kids messing around, though the nearest neighbor was a mile down the gravel road and never came by. He frowned, pushed his peas around. We were quiet after that, listening to the baseboard heater click as it cooled, listening to the rain start up again. I told myself to forget the ranger's story. I told myself work was work and woods were woods, and 30 years in the mill means you know the difference between rumor and fact. Then, just after lights out, the low whoop came. 2 notes, rising and falling, then a hush that felt like waiting. It came from the tree line, maybe closer. My boy called out, "Dad?" I said, "Just an owl, buddy." It wasn't an owl. I lay there in the dark, eyes open, counting my heartbeat until it slowed. Mid-October 1989. Cold rain slapping the windows, the kind that sounds like gravel. I wove a small berry basket from cedar bark strips my dad taught me to peel when I was young. Keeps the hands busy, keeps grief quiet. My boy was at a friend's house in town for the night. The room held that stove-warm amber, wood stove popping, the kind of heat that makes you drowsy and safe. On the radio, a logger from up near Forks, not someone I knew, but he sounded honest, claimed he saw Bigfoot cross the 101 near milepost 194, early morning, fog still low. 10 feet, easy. Walked like a man, but wrong, you know? Too smooth. The host laughed. I snorted and turned it off. Maybe I didn't want the world to be bigger than my house, bigger than what I could see from the porch. Around midnight, the smell came, wet fur and sap, like a coat hung too close to the stove, but wrong, thicker, warmer. The porch light hummed its electric hum. I checked the deadbolt again, then the window latch. I whispered to myself, wind carrying scent from a dead elk. Neighbor's dog rolled in something. Wind. When it passed, I stood at the window, breathing the ghost of it, watching the shed door sway a little, tapped by nothing I could see. The fridge clicked off. The silence felt wrong and patient, like something holding its breath on the other side of the glass. I stayed there maybe 10 minutes, hand on the sill, watching the tree line. Nothing moved. When I finally went to bed, I left the hallway light on for the first time since my wife died. Late October 1989. First frost made everything honest. Out by the shed at dawn, breath fogging, crows loud in the alder, I found prints, wide, long, clean edges in the white rime, stepping from the tree line to the shed door. I bent close, knees popping. Warmth had softened the frost only where the center pressed, like weight I don't want to name. 18 inches long, maybe more, 5 toes, clear as day. I said it out loud just to hear how it sounded. Bigfoot. The word felt too small, too silly for what I was looking at. A smell hung low in the cold air. Wet dog and crushed fern, that same coat by the stove smell, but sharper now. My chest went tight. I looked around stupidly for a trick, for boot treads or a prank setup. No trick. The doorframe showed a fresh split in the wood, like something big had leaned in, polite but wrong, testing. I set a basket of last apples by the old stump near the shed because I didn't know what else to do. The crows watched me from the power line. I told myself I was feeding deer. I told myself not to tell my boy, not yet. Not until I understood what I was dealing with. When the sun slid behind cloud and the light went flat, I heard 2 low whoops from the alder, spaced like breath. That night, my boy asked why I kept looking out the window. I said I thought I heard something in the shed, maybe a raccoon. He said, "You look scared, Dad." I laughed too loud and said I wasn't. He didn't believe me. Neither did I. Early November 1989. Drizzle, soft and constant. 3 hens gone from the coop behind the shed. No blood, no feathers, no mess. The door had been lifted, not broken, not torn. Lifted like a careful hand had raised it, reached in, and set it back in place. I crouched there, my knees popping, and smelled that same wet fur sap smell, stronger near the ground. I'm a practical man. I know predators. Coyotes tear, raccoons leave evidence. This was different. Loss bothers me. Patterns bother me more. I said Bigfoot in my head and felt stupid, like a kid afraid of the dark. My boy asked if a bobcat could open latches. I said maybe, though I knew better. He said, "You look scared, Dad." Again, and I realized I'd been saying that same too loud laugh for days. He watched me the way kids watch when they know you're lying. I added an extra lock to the shed, heavy sliding bolt, new screws, and then stood inside it for a while, just breathing. Dim light through the gap in the roof, dust in the beam, the old mower, the spare chains, the hammer hung level on its nail. The place felt watched, like the room knew I was lying to myself, like the walls had seen something I hadn't. That night, the knocks came. 1, 2, 3, spaced like questions, like someone asking permission. My heart answered in my throat. I didn't open the door. I stood there in the dark hallway, hand on the knob, counting my breath. 4 in, hold, 6 out. The knocks didn't repeat. After a long time, I heard a low whoop from farther off, maybe 200 yards into the trees. I didn't sleep. Mid-November 1989, midnight, windless, the kind of stillness that makes you hear your own pulse. I set one apple on the porch step. Don't ask me why. Maybe I wanted to trade with the unknown, make rules where there aren't any, find some kind of language that worked. The wind stayed gone. The forest listened. When the 3 knocks came, I said out loud through the door, "No closer." My voice didn't sound like me. Higher, thinner. A shape shifted beyond the alder, only a darker dark, no edges, no form I could make sense of. I couldn't see it straight, just the way the porch light bent to avoid it, the way the space moved wrong. The smell was stronger now, not foul, just animal and rain and something I didn't have a name for. I thought the word Bigfoot again and felt my scalp go tight, skin prickling. In the morning, the apple was gone, and 3 small stones sat where it had been, stacked neat, balanced. River stones, smooth, damp. I kept them in my jacket pocket all day at the mill, touching them like worry beads, like evidence I couldn't show anyone. Arnie said at lunch, "You hearing that Bigfoot talk going around? Leona says half the valley's spooked." I said no. He laughed. "You and your ghosts, Dale." I didn't correct him. I went back to the saw and let the noise drown it out. That night, I left 2 apples. In the morning, 6 stones. The pattern held. I started to understand that I wasn't dealing with an animal, not just an animal. Something was counting. Something was answering. Late November 1989. First snow, soft and early, hushing everything. There was blood, dark, old, not much, on the shed threshold. Inside, the mower tarp had been pulled into a nest, bunched and shaped. I should have backed out. I should have called the ranger, called someone. Instead, I lifted the tarp edge with 2 fingers. The air underneath smelled like wet bark, sweat, winter. I whispered, "Bigfoot." The word felt wrong in my mouth, childish and heavy at the same time. A shadow shifted deeper in the dark, slow, deliberate, and a sound came. Low, not a growl, not quite a moan. Hurt. I know that sound. I heard it when my wife was dying in the hospice bed and didn't want to scare our boy. When she tried to be quiet and couldn't. I backed away, palms up, empty, trying to show I wasn't a threat. I brought the apples inside, then brought them back out, my hands shaking. I told myself I'd sleep on it, think it through, but instead I boiled water on the stove, grabbed old towels from the linen closet, and left the shed door unlatched. Snow fell soft outside. The knocks didn't come that night. The silence did, thick and waiting. I sat at the kitchen table until 3 in the morning, drinking cold coffee, listening to nothing. Early December 1989, pre-dawn, breath fogging in the cold, thermos clicking open, kettle hissing on the stove. I went into the shed slow, speaking low like to a skittish horse. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just leaving this." I set down a shallow pan of oatmeal and a bucket of clean water. My flashlight stayed low, on my boots, on the boards, not aimed. The smell, wet fur, cedar, a clean kind of musk, filled the place, warm in the cold. A hand, I'll say it now, I'll be clear. A hand, broad, dark with mud, or maybe just dark, came forward from under the tarp, not to grab, just to hover near the steam rising from the oatmeal. My mouth said, "Bigfoot," soft, and some of the fear left. Awe came in to take its place. I didn't look full on. It felt wrong to stare, invasive. I kept my eyes on the oatmeal, on the way the breath moved the tarp. Slow, measured, careful. My own breath matched it without me meaning to. Slow, then slower, like we were finding the same rhythm. I told no one. Not my boy, not Arnie, not the ranger I saw at the Chevron 2 days later. I started a notebook. Day, weather, how much food was taken, any sounds, any signs, like routine could make this moral. like documentation could make it safe. I slept less. I checked the porch light often, made sure it stayed on, made sure the path was lit. Outside at night, the alder creaked once, twice, and a third time, like it had learned the pattern, like the forest itself was knocking back. Winter, 1989 into 1990. Cold blue mornings, faucet dripping, kitchen clock ticking. I made rules in my head, then wrote them down on the inside cover of the notebook. I don't touch. I don't photograph. I don't say Bigfoot where my boy can hear. I leave food just inside the shed door. I talk low, respectful. In return, the hens came back, 2 of them, left in the coop one morning like someone had corrected a mistake, like an apology. The stacked stones appeared on the porch rail some mornings, 3 flat ones, always damp, sometimes with a crow feather tucked under the top stone. My boy said one morning, pouring cereal, "Dad, the shed smells like a wet dog." I said, "The roof leaks, rain gets in, mildew." He rolled his eyes. "You and your Bigfoot rumors," he teased, grinning, and my stomach dropped. I forced a smile. He didn't notice. I started bringing bandages, gauze, antiseptic, tape, and tossing them into the shed without looking. I'd set them on the tarp edge and turn my head, give privacy. In time, the tarp moved without the hurt noise. I don't know what healed what. I don't know if it was the bandages or just time or something else. Nights grew quieter, but my sleep didn't. Each time I drifted off, I'd jolt awake, listening for the pattern. Somewhere between sleep and waking, soft and polite. Always the same. 1, 2, 3. It became the rhythm of my nights. March 1990. Storm night, wind howling in the eaves, rain drumming the roof like fists, power lines down somewhere up the valley. The lights died, and the house went cold blue with lightning. My boy slept at his cousin's place in town. I'd driven him there before the storm hit. I sat by the window in the dark, counting flashes, counting seconds between thunder. The shed roof rattled hard. I thought it might come off. From the dark, from the direction of the tree line, came a voice, low, not words exactly, more like vowels pulled long, stretched out, 2 whoops, then a sigh that sounded almost human. I answered without thinking, without planning. "It's okay," I said, loud enough to carry over. "The rain. I see you." Then quieter, almost to myself. "You're a Bigfoot, right?" I felt stupid saying it, then ashamed for making it small with a name, for reducing whatever this was to a word people laugh at. The tarp in the shed rustled. I could hear it even over the storm. I set my hand on the door jamb and kept it there, palm flat on cold wood, fingers spread. A hand, larger, slower, met the light crack between the door and frame, close, still, not touching, just present. Like we both knew the rule, like we both understood the boundary. The storm walked off toward the coast. My house exhaled, settling, from deep in the trees, like a reminder, like a promise. Knock, knock, knock. I stayed at the window until dawn. 1991 into 2019. 28 years of mornings. I aged in that doorway. Thermos, oatmeal, apples in fall, fish heads sometimes when I had them, blackberries in August in a woven cedar basket when the canes were heavy and sweet. I fixed the shed twice, new tin, new sill, always leaving a gap at the bottom, 6 inches, like a cat door for a giant. When my boy left for the Navy in '96, the house went too quiet. I talked more at the shed door. I'm here, still here. When my left knee went bad in 2004, I leaned hard on the jamb and felt an answering thrum through the wood, a breath that matched mine. I said Bigfoot more easily by then, but softer, the way you'd say neighbor after a funeral, with respect and a little bit of sorrow. Sometimes I found gifts, a line of stacked river stones, 3 high, always 3, a raven feather, clean and black. Once, in 2011, my missing claw hammer leaning against the shed door, cleaned of pitch and rust, oiled. I kept a flip phone charged in the kitchen drawer with a couple short clips. Knox recorded one January, a low whoop from summer, but I never posted them online, never showed anyone. People hunt names. people hunt proof. Nights. I still woke at 2 or 3, hand flat on the bedroom wall, counting in the dark. 1, 2, 3, waiting for the answer that sometimes came, sometimes didn't. November 2019. Morning fog, tires on wet gravel, police radio squawking. A woman with a yellow slicker and a black lab started walking past my place maybe 3 years back. Polite wave, never stopped. One morning in late October, she paused by the fence, head cocked, dog sniffing hard toward the shed. "Something's breathing in your shed," she said, laughing, half spooked. I laughed too hard, too fast. "Old chest freezer," I said. "Compressor sounds weird." She nodded, pulled the dog along, waved. A week later, 2 sheriff's deputies rolled up. Fog lifting slow off the road, blue lights bouncing off wet alder bark. The younger one, maybe 30, stepped out first, hand resting on his belt. The older one looked tired, gray at the temples. Looked like me. "Noise complaint," the younger one said. "Late night disturbances. Unusual sounds." He grinned a little. "People say you got a Bigfoot out here." The older deputy muttered, "You and your Bigfoot stories." But his eyes didn't smile. He looked at the shed, then at me, then back at the shed. The shed was quiet in that heavy wool way, the way it gets when something's holding still on purpose. I stood between them and the doorframe with the old split I never fixed, the one from 30 years back. Inside, I heard it. Something exhaled long and slow, then went still. "Nothing here," I said. "Storm knocked some branches down. I'll clean it up." The younger one looked like he wanted to check. The older one put a hand on his shoulder, shook his head. I signed a paper promising to keep the noise down. They left. The dog walker didn't wave after that. I saw her take a different route. That night, the knocks were far away, 1, 2, 3, distant maybe a quarter mile into the trees, like a goodbye, like a warning. Now, late 2019, rain on the porch, tape hiss in my memory, clock ticking in the kitchen. I moved closer to town after the deputies came. Knee worse, stairs too much. The shed sits empty now, door off its hinges, tin roof folded like a bad memory, alder growing through the floor. I kept the stones in a mason jar on the mantel, the feather under glass in a small frame, the woven basket on a hook by the door. The flip phone stays in the kitchen drawer, clips unplayed, password locked. I say Bigfoot softly now, like a name I borrowed and should return with care. I owe the woods a secret. I owe my boy the quiet I couldn't keep for myself. People ask what I saw. I won't describe a shape or height or color. I'll tell you about a voice like vowels, a hand that didn't touch, a smell of wet cedar and rain, a rule kept for 30 years. I'll tell you the deputy's tires on the gravel sounded like a door closing on something I can't get back. Sometimes, when the rain is thin and the porch light hums in my new place in town, I tap the railing without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, and wait for the space after, for the answer that doesn't come anymore. I heard the 3 knocks again last night.